Imagine this. You're driving down the highway. Your mind is totally wandering. Maybe you're running late for a really crucial meeting.
Right, you're stressed. You're just trying to get there.
Exactly. You haven't checked the speedometer in like miles.
Oh.
And then out of nowhere, you see it. The flash of blue and red lights right in your rearview mirror.
Oh, man. The absolute worst feeling.
The worst. Your stomach just completely drops. So you pull over to the shoulder, you're fumbling around in the glove box for your registration, you roll down your window, and, well, as you look up, bracing for the worst, you realize the police officer standing there is your absolute best friend.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, someone you've known for over a decade.
Yeah.
So what is the very first thing that goes through your mind?
I mean, it's such a visceral, universal scenario, right? You experience that initial, just blinding spike of pure panic.
Oh, for sure.
But then it's instantly replaced by this massive, overwhelming wave of relief. Because the immediate subconscious assumption we all make is like, oh, thank goodness it's you, I'm safe.
Right. It's the ultimate collision between this harsh reality and our human expectations of mercy. We inherently expect familiarity to just give us a pass.
Yeah, we really do.
And surprisingly, that exact tension, that assumption that our relationships can somehow cancel out our infractions, that's actually at the heart of an ancient forward protest found in the biblical book of Hosea.
It really is.
Chapter 8, verse 2 features this fascinating exclamation. It says, "My God, we know you."
And it's a staggering sentence when you unpack the history behind it. That brief little exclamation completely encapsulates this profound misunderstanding of what a relationship with the divine actually entails.
Which is exactly our mission today. We are
Yeah.
taking a deep dive into this dynamic, and we've tailored this specifically for you, the listener.
Yeah, because there is a lot to cover here.
There really is. We're exploring the stark, sometimes incredibly uncomfortable difference between merely knowing about God and, truly knowing him in a relational sense.
Right.
So we're looking at what happens when our modern expectations of faith violently collide with the reality of our actions, and ultimately how we understand the life of Christ Jesus through all of this.
I love that we're doing this because the psychology behind that ancient cry, it is incredibly relevant today. It forces a deeply personal diagnostic test, really.
How so?
Well, it asks whether you approach your spiritual life as this living, breathing reality that actually dictates your actions, or if you are, secretly treating it as a cosmic get-out-of-jail-free card.
For when life inevitably pulls you over.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that speeding ticket framework is honestly, it's the perfect way to establish a baseline for just human behavior in general.
It really sets the stage perfectly.
So there are generally two flawed reactions someone might have when their best friend walks up to their car window in uniform. The first is to lean heavily, like almost aggressively, on the relationship.
Right, the emotional leverage.
Yeah. You say, "Hey man, it's me, you know me. We had dinner last week, so obviously we can just let this slide." You are fully expecting the intimacy of your relationship to completely cancel out the authority of the law.
Which is just this deep-seated assumption that familiarity grants exemption. You really believe that because the officer loves you, he's just going to suspend justice for you?
Yeah, that he'll just look the other way.
Right.
But then there's the second reaction, which is a bit more intellectual.
Okay, the manual defense.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
fair to say, look, I know the traffic regulations perfectly. I could literally recite the driver's manual back to front. I know the braking distance of this vehicle and the exact statutes of this highway.
Wow.
Right? You're expecting your vast head knowledge of the rules to somehow magically erase the physical reality that you just broke them.
And both of those reactions, they attempt to completely bypass the actual offense. I mean, one uses emotional leverage and the other uses intellectual pride, but they do the same thing.
Well, I'm actually going to push back on that a little
Oh,
bit.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
Because honestly, isn't the whole point of having a friend in high places that they actually do cut you some slack?
I mean, that's what we want to believe.
Right. If my best friend is a cop and I was just going, like a little bit over the limit, it feels completely counterintuitive to human nature to not expect a favor.
Yeah.
We're socially wired to leverage our connections for survival.
Sure.
It's just how the world works. So why is this considered such a flawed approach to justice?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the concept of ultimate justice fundamentally opposes that survival instinct you're talking about. True goodness cannot operate on a sliding scale of nepotism.
Okay, that makes sense.
Think about the officer's character. If that officer is truly an honest person, like a person of absolute integrity, he will undoubtedly speak to you with kindness. He'll be totally sympathetic to your bad day,
Right.
but he cannot pretend the speeding never happened. If he ignores the infraction simply because he likes you, he ceases to be the honorable person you befriended in the first place. His integrity is compromised.
Oh, wow. So by expecting him to just let you off the hook, you're actually asking him to be a worse version of himself.
Exactly.
You're demanding that he corrupt his own character just to save you, what, $100 fine?
That is the crux of it right there. Knowledge of the law doesn't erase the breaking of it, and a personal relationship does not negate the necessity of justice.
It really doesn't.
And deep down in our most honest moments, we instinctively know this. I mean, we are totally outraged when we see justice bypassed for wealthy or well-connected people in society.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
We hate it when other people do it.
Right. We despise nepotism when it benefits someone else, yet we constantly, desperately want it applied to ourselves.
That double standard is deeply embedded in the human condition. And, we see it playing out on a massive scale historically. We're definitely not the first people to try and leverage a relationship to escape consequences.
And even close.
Which brings us directly to the context of Hosea 8.2, which, honestly, the more you read about it, the more shocking it gets.
The historical context for the Israelites at this moment is just bleak. It's incredibly dark.
Yeah, paint that picture for us.
So the terrifying Assyrian Empire is looming on the horizon. They are threatening total annihilation. Society is crumbling. The leadership is in chaos. And disaster is practically knocking on the front door.
And when they cry out, "My God, we know you," they aren't on their knees in some posture of humble repentance.
No, not at all.
They are arguing. They're looking at these geopolitical disasters falling upon them, watching their entire world fall apart. And they're essentially demanding to know why their divine insurance policy isn't paying out.
Yes.
They're protesting like, wait a minute, we have the relationship. Why aren't you protecting us?
And the cognitive dissonance there is just massive, because on paper, the Israelites possess the ultimate spiritual resume.
Oh, for sure.
They had the historical pedigree of deliverance from Egypt. They had this intricate system of temple worship, the long lineage of prophets, and the explicit laws of the covenant. They possessed an encyclopedic head knowledge of who God was and what he had done.
But their actual daily lives told a completely different story.
Entirely different. In practice, they had completely compartmentalized their religion.
Right.
They maintained all the outward rituals, but they actively continued to follow foreign idols. They set up golden calves in Samaria. They were making these desperate political alliances with pagan nations instead of actually trusting God.
Like they just put him in a box.
Exactly. They effectively reduced the creator of the universe to a tribal deity, just a lucky charm they could keep in their pocket and pull out only when the Assyrians showed up.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Just the sheer audacity of it.
Yeah.
If we draw a direct line back to our opening scenario, it is identical to a driver who has memorized every single traffic statute, but then consciously, arrogantly chooses to speed, run red lights, and drive recklessly on a daily basis.
Every single day.
And then, when the engine finally blows out or they crash the car into a ditch, they are genuinely, utterly shocked that the manufacturer didn't protect them. Their exclamation of, "We know you," carries this tone of profound entitlement. Like, how can you let this happen to us? We're the ones with your name on our bumper.
It really is the ultimate manifestation of empty familiarity. We really shouldn't be surprised that a nation living in total rebellion was facing disaster.
Right.
What should astonish us is their unshakable expectation of rescue. I mean, why would a holy, just God be obligated to protect a people who stubbornly refuse to listen, who dishonors his character, and who treat him merely as a cosmic shield against trouble?
All while completely ignoring the way he told them to live.
Exactly.
They wanted the benefits of the relationship without any of the authority. They wanted the payout from the insurance policy, but they had been deliberately setting fire to the house for decades.
That is a great way to put it. And that compartmentalization is incredibly dangerous. And it is very easy for us, sitting here thousands of years later with the benefit of all this hindsight, to just judge the Israelites for being hypocritical.
Oh, it's so easy to judge them.
But the historical record holds up a very uncomfortable mirror to the modern believer.
It really does, because human nature hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
If the Israelites fell into this trap of separating their public religious identity from their private obedience, well, the modern listener has to ask, where that same disconnect exists today.
It brings the warning right into your living room. It asks you to examine your own immediate reactions in times of crisis.
Yeah.
When the bottom falls out of your life, when the proverbial blue lights are flashing and disaster strikes, do you cry out, "My God, I know you," with this underlying expectation
Hmm.
that your church attendance or your theological knowledge should just automatically force God to remove all your difficulties?
Right. Do you expect divine intervention while privately holding on to, like, deliberate compromises and hidden sins?
Exactly.
But, okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
Surely the takeaway here isn't that we should just stop asking for help when we are struggling, because that sounds like a terrifyingly bleak, isolating way to live.
Oh, absolutely not.
If I'm in trouble, I want to be able to call for help. So where exactly is the line between a genuine, desperate prayer for deliverance and treating God like a cosmic vending machine where I just insert my "I know you" token and demand a miracle to pop out?
That is the vital distinction to make right there. Crying out in distress is not the issue at all. God actively invites people to call upon him, to seek refuge, and to honestly pour out their grief and fear.
Right. I mean, look at the songs.
The Psalms are full of raw, agonizing cries for help. The dividing line is the nature of the relationship behind the cry. We really have to deeply examine the definition of the word know. Like, what do we actually mean when we claim to know him?
So it sounds like the danger is mastering the language of faith while entirely lacking the reality of obedience.
That perfectly captures it, yes. Knowing God is not merely cataloging facts about him.
Right.
It is not possessing the correct theology or reading the Bible cover to cover or just knowing how to use the right Christian vocabulary in your small group setting.
Those things are just reading the traffic manual.
Exactly. True knowledge, in a biblical sense, is a real, living, intimate relationship. And the defining characteristic of intimacy with God is that it radically alters your behavior.
Yeah.
If you claim to know him, but you deliberately continue in unrepentant sin and remain completely unmoved by his character, you are just echoing the Israelites.
You are demanding the relationship cancel the reality of the road. That's a heavy diagnostic tool. Because it forces a person to look at their private actions, not just their public intentions.
Yeah.
But, that naturally brings up a massive theological dilemma for the listener.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, if true obedience is the goal, and if truly knowing God doesn't guarantee a life free from disaster, how are we supposed to understand suffering?
That is the big question.
Because the prosperity gospel mindset kind of tells us that if we obey, we get blessed with an easy life. If I am genuinely trying to be obedient, if I'm truly trying to follow the rules of the road, why are the blue lights still flashing in my life?
Right.
Why did I still get cancer? Why did I still lose my job?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to look at the ultimate paradigm for the Christian faith. We have to look at Christ Jesus.
Because Jesus completely breaks our modern expectation of fairness, doesn't he?
He really does.
We know the theology.
Right.
Christ is the Son of God, entirely sinless. He represents the ultimate flawless example of perfect orthopraxy. He never once compartmentalized his life. He was in perfect obedience to the Father.
And yet,
His life was not a steady climb of comfort and prosperity.
far from it. He suffered profoundly. He was betrayed, mocked, tortured, and crucified. And he suffered not because he broke the rules, but for righteousness' sake and as a sacrifice for the sins of others.
Which totally dismantles the vending machine theology we talked about. If perfect obedience guaranteed a pain-free life, the cross wouldn't even exist.
It wouldn't.
Let's actually drop the driving analogy for a moment, because it doesn't quite capture the weight of this.
Okay.
It's more like a master silversmith working with a piece of precious metal. The silversmith puts the silver into the blazing fire. And the intense heat isn't a punishment because the silver is bad, right?
Right.
The heat is the necessary, agonizing process of burning away the impurities until the silversmith can see his own reflection in the metal.
That is a much more accurate framework for sanctification. It really represents a profound theological shift for the modern Christian.
How so?
Well, suffering should not be a shock. If the sinless Son of God endured the absolute worst of human suffering, it makes zero sense for his followers to be utterly surprised when they encounter hardship in this world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Apostle Peter actually read about this. He said, "Do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come on you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you."
Which basically implies that hardship isn't an anomaly in the system, it's the established route.
Exactly. Suffering is not always a penalty for bad behavior. Very often, it is the mechanism of sharing in the path of the Lord. It is the refining fire. And understanding that completely changes the posture of our hearts when a crisis actually hits.
Because if you view all suffering as a mistake or as some breach of your contract with God, your only reaction is going to be bitter anger.
You'll just be
All right,
furious.
you will be the Israelites, basically shaking your fist at the sky,
Yeah.
demanding the pain be fixed immediately because you feel cheated. So if throwing my I know you card on the table is the completely wrong move, I imagine the only logical alternative is total surrender.
It is the shift from demanding an escape hatch to asking for endurance, instead of yelling, I know you, so take this away, which is really just an attempt to manipulate God. A genuine, living relationship sounds entirely different.
What does it sound like?
It adopts a posture of humility that says, My God, I trust your character. Search my heart. If there is hidden sin or compartmentalization in my life, correct me. But if this fire is part of your design, strengthen me to endure it, just as my Lord endured the cross.
It is entirely valid to pray for the heat to be turned down, though, right? To ask for healing and mercy.
Oh, absolutely. Even Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane prayed for the cup of suffering to pass from him, but he immediately followed it with, Yet not my will, but yours be done.
Right.
That cry for mercy must be eternally paired with submission to his ultimate will. True knowledge of God is demonstrated not just by the desperate words you use when you hit rock bottom, but by a daily life that actively seeks to obey, love, and follow Christ, even when the cost of following him is astronomically high.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, today? As we synthesize this deep dive, it becomes incredibly clear that Hosea 8.2, the cry of, My God, we know you, isn't just a dusty historical footnote about a rebellious geopolitical state.
Not at all.
It is a highly sensitive diagnostic test for your own spiritual dashboard. We have to ruthlessly examine our own motives. We have to move away from these shallow claims of faith and from treating God like an easily manipulated best friend who we expect to just ignore our deliberate speeding.
We have to close the gap between our public theology and our private reality.
We have to move from empty, entitled familiarity to a deep, transformative, and obedient reality. True, biblical knowledge of God isn't proven by having a flawless Christian resume or by loudly invoking his name the moment things go wrong.
Right.
It is proven by a life that willingly follows the path of Christ, fully acknowledging that the path to resurrection always goes directly through the suffering of the cross, not around it.
And that leaves us with a deeply provocative final thought to consider as you go about your week. We established that the sinless Christ suffered, and that our own trials are very often a way of being refined and sharing in his specific path. If that is objectively true, if true, living intimacy with God actually requires the endurance of hardship rather than the constant miraculous escaping of it, then how might that completely redefine what you consider a blessing the next time life pulls you over?
Wow. If the fire is what purifies the silver, maybe the heat is the blessing. That's something to deeply reflect on the next time you see those flashing lights in your own life. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and until next time, keep digging deeper.